Greetings, good afternoon. It is Thursday here in southeastern Michigan. It is 82 degrees, bright and sunny. Uh, in other words, it's a perfect day for eight questions with. And this will be first of two shows. Hopefully, we'll get this in. Hopefully, we'll get both in. Last night, some of you might have saw my community tab. I had put down that we had to reschedule Jamie Hart. Something came up, and so we wanted to reschedule that for her. So hopefully, we'll get that done in October. So Jamie will be on the show. We will have her back, but it probably won't be till October. But that's okay because absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? Um, but today we are back with two shows. We're back. We're scheduled to talk to Karen Lam, and she'll be here at 4 o'clock. And tonight at our regular time, we'll be talking with artist Joshua Adams. Josh Adams will be here with us and to close out the week. And it's been a very fun week, for sure. We interviewed Matt Cuss yesterday from. Uh, uh, I'm trying. I am trying. It is getting more and more difficult out there for us interviewers, to contact people that we want to talk to. Instagram, as you know, it has really shut down the door as far as contacting people. You can follow them. It used to be you could follow them and send them a message, but it's been a little bit more difficult as of late because now they allow you to send one message, and unless they write back to you and say hi back, that's all you get. So it's a little bit frustrating. Just have to make it work a little harder. But that's all right though, because we got a lot of people to talk to. There's no shortage of guests, let me tell you. It's just making it harder to get accomplished directors like Karen Lamb to come on board and talk with us. And in fact, I gotta say thank you to October Coast for helping set it up this interview. They do a great job by me, and I'm always appreciative to their hard work. Um, yeah, that's right. That's right, James. We will always make it we'll always make it work for us. Um, we'll just have to work a little harder. We grind anyway. Anybody who does an interview channel such as or a podcast such as James from the Friendly Man or Steven from the House of Horrors, anybody who does outside guest knows how hard that this job can be. The show can doing a show like this can be. It looks really easy, but it isn't. It's like a duck on water. The duck seems like effortlessly floating across the pond, but you can't see the feet. And the feet are doing like this. Um, but I love to doing it, and I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you're here with us today. Um, yeah. Uh, who's killing JT? I don't know who's killing JT. I don't know. Hey, there's John Henderson from Doomsday Crypt. Um, Now I will say this. Now John, on the other hand, he is in a really good position, and I'm really glad that he is because then he wouldn't be in the same boat we are. And one of the cool things is that when John can get some guests, basically by working a convention, um, that's a real tricky though. That's really tricky. Um, to when you go ask people at conventions who are already there for guests, and I'm sure John can tell us this. But when you go up there and start asking them, hey, by the way, I got a podcast. Would you like to come on that? A lot of the times, it's the last thing anybody wants to hear. They're already working hard at the convention, and they get their cape tugged on by everybody. And John knows this too. All the celebrities are there, all the stars are there, and let me tell you, they get asked by dozens and dozens of people for favors all day long. Can you do this? Can I get this? Can I get this? Can you give me this? Would you do this? It is really, really tough, and I recommend no one do it. Never ask any celebrity at a convention for a show or anything. Just if anything, buy them a drink, buy them a Pepsi, buy them a Coke or something. Don't ask anything from them because they already are. Believe me, you think you're the first one asking them for something? You're not. Um, so yeah, you don't want to do that. Um, yep. Believe me. I mean, if during the course of a discussion, you can mention, hey, I got a podcast, and it's a lot of fun. I've had these guests on. You just tell them about the show. You don't ask them to come on it. You let them come up with the idea. Hey, I like to do your show. You let them come up with the idea to come onto your show, and then when they do, then you're more likely or not that will actually happen for you because they brought it up to you first. Hey, I'd like to come onto your show. I'd love to have you. All right, let's make it happen. But they've initiated the contact. You're probably always going to get a guest. But many times you go up to somebody, you'll sit there and say, um, "Hey, would you want to be on the show?" All right, yeah, yeah. All right, let's get together. Here's my email. Um, you you won't get it. You just won't. They'll just sit there and say, "I'm really busy. I'm really my schedule's really busy. I didn't, you just won't." And then you have to stop contacting them, chasing that potential date down because, like John mentioned, you don't want to irritate them. So so again, it's easier to do it on Instagram or Facebook, which I have not really done on Facebook. I have not really reached out to anybody, um, you know, like I have not reached out to any major filmmakers such as Karen, such as other filmmakers that you've seen on the show. I have not reached out to them on Facebook. I sort of leave Facebook alone a little bit as far as established people go because I don't want to be that person. Um, I do get a lot of young actors and a lot of new directors on Facebook. That I do. A lot of the young actors and actresses you've seen, directors with their first film underneath their belt or what have you, I do get from Facebook. I do get them from there and I bring them here. And for a lot of the times that you've already seen or heard, a lot of times we're their first press. I'm really proud about that, by the way. I think it's cool as hell to bring somebody up for the first time and give them the first interview. I love it. It's like giving a band the first gig. It's that same high. Let's see. The chat is popping here. Yes, John says cons definitely be reserved. Yes. See, yeah, John knows what I'm talking about, and James does too. James does too. James says I just had to send an email to a band to get on our program. They ghosted us. Yeah, that happens. Um, Brad and I asked to do live on Saturday at Scarefest and encouraged to bring on celebrity events uh, on let's see, and encouraged to bring on celebrity guests event. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. Pat, answer the phone. Well, I can't now because I'm doing the show live. Uh, uh, but I will definitely talk to you after the show. I got some time afterwards if it's not too late in Turkey. I definitely will give you a call. Um, yeah, me and Steven, we talked yesterday for about an hour and a half about this situation, and I definitely would want to talk to you about this too, James. It's got to be it's got to be a new way for us to oh gosh, and it worked. It worked. Okay, good. I started changing my Facebook time starts to coincide with me when I actually go on, and it seems to be working a little bit. That's great. Um, okay, definitely. Send me. I'm not doing anything tomorrow, James. In fact, I'll probably be going up live, maybe a little earlier than this, and we can definitely. But I definitely want to talk to you on phone. I definitely want to address this. Might as well bring John into the party too. He's an interviewer now. Yeah, we'll bring John into the mix. I'll see if Steven's around. We got to collaborate on this. I'd love to collaborate on this to see what we can do um, to make this happen because I love having a new guest on, but I do love having an opportunity to interview let's be honest. I want to interview famous directors like Karen here. Okay, I'm not going to pull my punch on that. If I get a chance to interview a powerhouse like her, you don't think I'm not going to want to do it? Hell yes. But now it's going to be a little bit harder. So I'm trying to figure out what we can do to make it easier again. And the thing is, though, too, is that I have interviewed a few well-known people. I have, and the one thing I do not want to do more than anything else, I don't want to ask them for help. I don't. I know they probably give it. I had help for Last Women in Horror Month. I contacted 3 friends, and they delivered some guests for me. I don't wanna do that, because I don't wanna be seen as just that's all you're gonna see me as, "Hey." I don't want that. I wanna do this on our own, and, but, um but yeah, I might ask for recommendations. I think that's probably what I'm gonna start doing, is like, "Who would you recommend I talk to?" um, and then leave it from there. Um, because you don't want to be that guy, to go up there hey, who do you know, and can you get me their name and number? That's not how I never operated like that ever. Um, nope. Rather do it myself, because my friends are my friends. This is work, right? All right. So now that I got off the small soapbox here, so Karen Lam is going to be here. Super psyched. She's got a brand new movie out called The Curse of Willow Song. My review will be coming out on the same day that it drops. It's coming out on Ucork'd Entertainment. It's a fun movie. It's a fun movie. One of the funnest I've watched. Now, it is a slow burn film. It is a slow burn film. I'm not going to lie about that, but man, oh man, wait for the payoff. Wait for the payoff. It's if you're a comic book fan, if you're a comic book fan like I am, even though this movie is categorized as horror per se, but if you look at this movie through comic book eyes, you're gonna love this film. You're gonna absolutely love it. Uh, hey, there's our good friend Matt, also another a fellow interviewer. We were just talking about interviews, so definitely you'll you'll probably have to be part of this mix too, Matt. You and I were talking about this during our interview yesterday about securing guests, and I will send you Tom's name through Facebook. Tom Jalofy from Flickering Myth, and he's also a accomplished screenwriter, and also some actors on the other side on your side of the pond that I think you'll really enjoy talking to. In fact, I probably will introduce you to Ashleen Clark, and then I'll own your soul, because after you interview Ashleen, you'll be sitting there saying, "Thanks, Pat," like forever and a day. Because Ashleen Clark is just a joy to talk with, and she's a hell of a director. Um, I love interviewing women horror directors. They're so much fun. They really are. It's so cool to be able to see horror through their eyes. I don't know how many horror movies I've seen with my male friends, but man, oh man, it seems to be really popping that more and more women directors are coming out and doing horror films and doing them right. Very excited about this. Uh, Karen has also she's also did a great film called Evangeline that came out and that got a lot of notoriety, a lot of critical acclaim. She also did a movie that we'll be talking about too, because I want to talk about the casting, because she had a great cast for this. And she directed the movie Bring It On, Cheer or Die, that came out. She did that for Universal 1440. Um, that was the last Bring It On movie, but they took it into a horror direction. So I'm really excited to talk to her about that. And again, Willow Song, really, really interesting movie. I can't wait to talk about it. Of course, Karen and I also have one thing in common too. We're both tremendous cat lovers. If you've been to her Instagram, which I will share that with you guys because you need to know this. You need to know this. Um, Karen is she loves cats, so she has cats, and so we're gonna have fun. I already told her the story already. We did a little pre-show, and I told her this, and I guess I'll tell you this too, even though it might not come across as might come across the wrong way, but I'll tell you that when we get her, because the doorbell just rang. So let's go get our guest. Please help me welcome out and share us out if you can, if you will. Um, Here we go. We're gonna be talking with Karen Lam, and away we go. Hello.
Hello.
So glad to see you again.
Yes, so happy to see you too. Yeah, anyway, it's clean now. It's clean like.
Oh, yeah. I was just about ready to break out the story that you and I were talking about earlier. The cheetah was on the hunt this morning, which is funny because I was actually looking at your picture of, and there was your cat up there. Give early morning, right? Isn't it just every morning they come up there and they lick your head? Um, it's without fail. Except for thank God he didn't do that to me today. You
I
know,
don't know. I think he likes my face cream. I'm not sure what it is, but he seems to think that grooming my eyebrows. Like, did you ever see I think it's there's that Colgate ad about the clothes stalker. I think that's my cat, like the clothes stalker.
let's see. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I know he does it every morning. I think personally for me, I think that he does it for me because he wants me to get up and give him treats. And they say they groom you because you're part of their tribe. They think you're a cat. And I'm going like, I don't think my cat thinks I'm a cat. I think my cat sees me as what I am, which is a treat dispenser.
And speaking of which, here he is.
Look out. Now, do they love the camera? Do they jump on your desk and walk in front of you?
Only when the camera's on and he's not supposed to be here. Then he's like, I have two. So one of them's more of a camera hog and he's less of a camera hog. So, but he seems to be quite concerned about, I guess, the state of my face this morning. So
isn't that something too? Is that they won't come in, like Paladin will not come in my den. He won't come into the den until he hears me speaking. Once he hears me speaking, then he knows I'm on camera, and then he'll come up here, and then he'll cast sharp my feet. He'll cast sharp my feet, and then he'll nibble at my toe, and then if I can, I'll let him jump up, and then he'll make an appearance, and then he's happy. But once he hears me talking, that's when he'll come by and cruise over and say hello. Yeah. What are your cats' names?
this is
Mateo,
Mateo.
right?
This is Mateo, and his sister is Sophia, and they're actually from the same litter, so they're twins. And
So they're bonded.
yeah, they're very bonded. She's sleeping right now, but sometimes she sits right behind me and has an intimate wash, which is really embarrassing. So
Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah, it's always entertaining, right?
yeah.
And cats are the only ones that seem to do that. I've never seen a dog do that on camera, but I've certainly seen my fair share of cats, and they'll be sitting right over your shoulder, and that's when they start cleaning themselves. And it's just like, oh, dude, can you not
Yeah.
do that? I don't
Yeah.
have anything. That's why I don't have anything behind me. I just have a chair because I don't want him jumping behind me and doing that while I'm on camera.
At that point, anything you say goes out the window because everyone's watching. She's having her full-on back teen wash, and I can't do anything about it.
Well, there's a term, right, that you folks in the movie business use called stealing scene, right?
Yep. Yeah.
That's what they do. That's what they do. They steal scenes every time. As soon as a cat comes on, everybody's like, "Oh, look at the kitty," and that's exactly what we're doing. We're looking at the cat. Hi, what's your cat's name? What's his? And next thing you know, like, well, don't you want to see? No one cares who you're talking with. They just want to see more cat.
Exactly. Maybe this is on purpose. I think he's more interesting anyway. So
Yeah, Mateo's beautiful. I love tuxedos.
They're always overdressed for the occasion.
I had a tuxedo. His name was Derek Jeter. And then the cheetah, as you can see right above you to the corner, you can see him looking down on you. I love tuxedo. I thought I was going to get another tuxedo, and then I got the cheetah. And orange cats are a mind of their own. Orange cats are trippy.
Yeah, I hear they're they seem I think they have great personalities. I think tuxedos have a mind of their own. I don't think they're actually trainable. So mine aren't. So
No, my wife can never get Derek to stop jumping on the bed when we change the sheets. No matter, we could he could be downstairs, don't say nothing, come upstairs, and then you would hear the sheet being flicked, and then as soon as you heard that, he would come running up the stairs and dash underneath the sheet.
helping,
Used to drive my
helping.
wife bonkers.
Yeah. It's called helping. That's what it
Is
is.
that what it is?
Yeah.
I think what it was like I never told her. Like I would see him out of the corner of my eye. I would never say nothing, and then I would just flip it, and then he'd jump on, and then and then she see him right there in the middle, and she gets mad. Says, "Can you get your damn cat off the bed?" I says, "This happens every single time," and I'm going like, "Of course, it has to happen every time." Our friend Steven is here. Hi, Steven. How are you? All right, I'm Milky Cabrera. All right, I see you, Josh. Thanks for coming in, buddy. Thanks for coming in. Karen knows I praised Evangeline. Yes, we're going to be talking about your career. You've had a great one so far.
Thank you. It's been fun. It's been fun.
Yes. I just I don't know. Canada, it must be in the water up there. It must be in the sunshine or something. But man, a hell of a lot of talent from up north.
Thank you. On behalf of all of us. And it's not the sunshine, it's Vancouver. We are in the rainforest. So
do you get rain every day there?
No, it's actually, you're right. It actually is sunny today, but and our summer's been really nice. But we have sometimes we have long stretches of like 2 or 3 months of just nothing but rain. So that does happen.
Okay. Yeah. I guess the first question I'll ask you, before we get into it a little bit, is with the strike happening right now, how are you staying busy? Are you because you're a SAG? I'm sure you're a SAG or you're a Directors Guild, right?
Nope, so I'm none of the above. So I mean, I am Directors Guild, but Directors Guild of Canada, and both Directors Guild in America and Canada aren't on strike, although we have some solidarity. And again, I'm Canadian too, so it makes a difference. Obviously I'm not getting American work, but as far as my own independent work, it hasn't really affected anything.
Oh, good. That means you're working then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I work for me, so I'm always working.
It's just like, it's starting to, I see posts in other places, and you can start seeing some of the people starting to, they're starting to get a little shaky for them, and they're commenting on it. And I'm so concerned because some of those people that are friends, they're good people, and I don't like to see it.
No, none of us do. Vancouver has a lot of basically production work that comes from the States, and we service a lot of American productions. And so I see a lot of friends that are really suffering right now. So
it's got to be absolutely just scary too, because I really thought once we hit September, I really thought that would be, because I know that the studios were sitting there saying, well, we're gonna break the writers first because they've been out longer. We're gonna break them first, and I thought I think they're gamble that the writers would come to the settle by September, but I think they underestimated the writers, and then when the actors joined them in as well. I thought for sure by end of September, by now, I thought for sure there would be a settlement of some kind, because
there's some big issues on the table, and it hasn't really been negotiated for way too long. So at this point, there's a lot that there's a lot of sticking points for sure. So, but apparently everyone's back in negotiations today. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think the studios have to be careful because we are already network TV as we know it here in the United States. It seems to be really on the bubble. The linear networks, they seem to be almost on lifelines. It's like it's not like they can sit back and relax and enjoy this, because they can't, because every year less and less people are watching them. So those three networks, could you imagine if one of those networks actually just went belly up?
Yeah. It's actually possible, because it feels like, I don't know the last time I've actually watched just regular network TV. I do have cable, but I don't know what show I've actually been watching. I do watch some HBO, but that's pretty well it. So, you know, I think most of the stuff that I watch is on all the other streaming services. So
to the chat we go. Our friend Steven says Karen has an absolutely contagious laugh, but yeah, she's one of my favorite Canadian directors. Yes, mine too.
oh,
Our good friend Matt is over from the UK. He is also an interviewer. He says, "Hi, Karen. Hi, everyone. How's the horror scene in Canada now? What do you think sparked it off? Cronenberg must be very influential to many."
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we grew up with Cronenberg. I remember the first one I saw was Dead Ringers, and there's something about I have never been able to go to a gynecological exam without thinking of those instruments since. So
yeah, Canada, like I said, Canada just has absolutely, it just lights out as far as talent goes. And there's a lot of great horror directors, horror films, all from Canada and Canadian directors. His son is a film director, and if I'm not mistaken, doesn't he have a daughter who also works in film, or am I mistaken that?
he might. I don't know. I do know that I just watched Infinity Pool that Brendan Cronenberg did, and it was brilliant. So yeah, it runs in the family. That creepy body horror stuff is definitely there.
Oh,
and I don't know whether it's in our water, and I don't know whether it's the long dark winters or what, but I do know that yeah, there's been quite a lot. Like, we've had a long history of horror in Canada.
Everybody's coming in saying hello. I'm saying hi back. Yeah, well, you know what? I guess now it's time for us to go to the start here. And how did you get your start into this crazy business? I mean, it's got to be. I mean, it's got to be a little. You're sure your story is quite unique.
Well, yeah, I think I call it failing upward, which is sort of how my career has gone. I didn't start as a filmmaker. I started as a lawyer. Well, no, I first went into fashion design. I dropped out of fashion design. I went to law school. I wasn't a particularly effective lawyer. I ended up producing, and 1 year, all my projects went belly up, and then I started writing and directing. So this is what I mean by failing sideways upward.
Well, I mean, what attracted you to the law? I mean, something must have attracted you there, and what got you out of it?
You know what? It was really a Legally Blonde situation. I was the only fashion school dropout, I'm sure, in law school. I literally did panic. I wasn't sure what I was going to do after my fashion career fizzled, basically because I couldn't imagine my life as every day was project catwalk, and I found it really exhausting. So I ended up writing the LSAT, which is the law entry exam, and I stupidly got in. And so then it was insurance law. So I was dealing with like municipal sewage breakages, and that was so I dealt with a lot of crap. Let's just put it that way.
Did you end up getting your law degree out of it?
Yeah, I have a law degree, and I was a practicing lawyer for years, which is how I ended up working for the provincial funding agency in British Columbia. And I helped put together the tax credit program, and that's how I ended up producing, which is, again, that was the long segue into filmmaking.
Oh my God, I'm just trying to. I guess I mean, how soon did it take you from getting your degree, finding out what you're doing, and were you ever like inspired by the law you're practicing, or was it just like, I'm here, I'm just gonna go ahead and make I mean, it sounds, knowing you as we see you, I can't imagine how stifled your creativity was.
Well, I didn't see myself as creative in that sort of way. I always painted. I had a lot of different artistic pursuits that weren't film. I loved film my whole life. Like, I've always loved, actually, particularly horror films. But when I was in law, it was basically, I was in insurance defense, so I was literally in court. And so I would, unfortunately for the poor, other lawyers and judges around, I saw that as my chance to practice stand-up. And so I was not like, yeah. So anyway, in fact, I had a judge say, "This is not your time, Ms. Lam, to start practicing your stand-up routine." And I was like, "Isn't?" It's like, anyway.
Well, if not now, when, Your Honor?
Exactly. I have a full captive audience.
Can we take this to the jury, and they might have a different feel of they might have a different opinion about what you're saying, and if they don't, I'll appeal it. Okay, and that's the end of my Perry Mason stick right there. All right. Well, though, I will ask you something you probably, I don't, hopefully no one's ever asked you, but tell us a little bit about your best case that you did. What was the one case that stays with you that you worked on that you won?
Oh, you know what? They were all like, the problem with law is that it's like a Dickensian novel. It just goes on and on. No one ever gets to court. We're just always negotiating, right? We're always in settlement conferences and we're always trying to mediate. So it was awful. Like I remember sometimes I'd have to do because I was a student back then. I had to do small claims courts. And I remember one time, it feels like kangaroo court. You're there, and all of a sudden I heard this rumbling in the back. And this guy brought in all his bookshelves. Like I think he must have. I have no idea what that case was, but I'll always remember I was in the midst of like arguing something or other, and I turned around and a man comes in with seriously full bookshelves. I think they were Billy like IKEA bookshelves, and he had brought them all in. So I don't know. Just weird things would happen regularly.
Yeah, small claim courts. You know what? I hear people go to court and they sit in and they watch the proceedings. I can't think of a better, probably maybe except for traffic court, but I can't think of a more interesting court to sit and watch if you're going to do that. It would be small claims court because there's some weird cases there.
Well, especially since a lot of times people represent themselves, and there's nothing worse and better than watching people represent themselves in court. So it's I actually someday I actually have I have a dark comedy insurance law script that I've been dying to write, but I don't know that the world's ready for it. It has a superhero theme to it, though. So
we're getting to that. We're getting to that. I'm excited to talk about that. I'm excited. Now you said that you got into producing. So how did someone who was doing court, a lawyer, now did someone see you in court and they came up to you and said, you know what? Have you thought about producing movies, or did you meet somebody and said, how do I get into the business?
I always liked, I always loved film, and I always wanted to be in the film industry. And I thought I could get in that way as an entertainment lawyer. And I had taken some entertainment law classes when I was in law school. And actually the boss that was running the provincial funding agency in BC actually was a guest at one of my classes. And so after articling, I was looking around, I was like, oh, I don't think I want to be like an insurance lawyer. And I ended up applying at different places, and he remembered me from that law class. And they set up an internship for me, and I ended up working in-house legal counsel there. And then I ended up administering film funding programs.
Yeah, being an entertainment lawyer, that's got to be a really good field. And for some, entertainment lawyers are really important. I think they're sort of undersung, they're underrated for the importance, as far as the business goes, as far as making it happen and watching out for best interest and what have you, writing up contracts, making sure that both sides are, because there's the acting side, and then there's the producing side, and then the creative side. Did you actually get to work on any cases that were for any active movies?
No, I did actually, I did quite a lot of financing actually. So at that point I was doing a lot of, it's really good as a producer to have that entertainment law background, because for a long time I was negotiating contracts and, working with banking and working with all the financial parts of it. But later on, when I was working in finance, I was actually working on projects from say 20th century. So I worked on basically financing chunks of like Borat and Night at the Museum and Family Stone. And so I worked on quite a few projects like that. And so learning it from the financial side first as compared to the creative side.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah. I can imagine. It came backward. I went backward.
Yeah, it is backwards because, you're right. A lot of directors go into producing, but you don't see a whole lot of producing slide over to the directing side.
No. Actually, it was funny because when I got a chance to direct my first studio film, which was the Bring It On, Cheer or Die franchise, I was talking to some of the lawyers. Like sometimes you're chatting with the business affairs side of things, and they're like, "How did you end up on that side? You're one of us."
Yeah, but you know what? I think the creative side in you really started. I just want to get involved. I want to be more hands-on. And so, but Bring It On, Cheer or Die, that wasn't your first movie though, because you've had a great career before that. So walk us through the first time that you actually decided that you wanted to be a director.
Oh my God.
Did
You
you
know,
ever and did you ever want to be an actress? Did it ever cross your mind as far as like, hey, I can act,
oh
or did
no, no, I knew that early on.
oh,
I accidentally ended up on TV for one of these news channel things. Basically I was still articling at that point. I was still in law, and I got hired to be on the CBC and on News World. And I don't know if you remember the scene from Bridget Jones when she's sliding down the pole, like with the fireman thing. That was my really illustrious like time on TV. Apparently, it was live TV. I don't belong on the other side of the camera. That's all I can say. So that was
um,
that. But I would say that for my directing side of things, I wasn't sure that I ever wanted to write or direct. But at that point, my producing career had gone, like, everything had sort of gone belly up 1 year. 1 year, every project I had in development imploded. And
uh,
I remember panicking, and I had an idea for a short film, and I ended up, trying to corral friends to actually do the writing and the directing. They're like, you know what, maybe you should just, try your hand at it. So I wrote a short script, and I applied to the National Screen Institute, which is in Canada, and it had a program where they would fund 5 short films, and mine was one of the ones that got picked. So it was called The Cabinet, and it was a short 12-minute film that's still shot on film. It's the last one I did first and last one I've shot on film, Super 16. And after that one, I ended up getting into a few other programs through like Canadian sort of funding programs, and then I got my first feature, which was Stained, and it was a really it didn't work out as well as I wanted to creatively, but I learned a lot, and I think
sure.
something about having your first film not going like gangbusters that actually frees you up for the rest of your career. You're never going to be like, oh my God, that first film was so awesome that I can never do anything else. You're like, wow, that first film bombed. There's nothing else I can't do.
It's that's funny you mentioned that, because I was just reading. I was reading this review. Someone actually wrote. I'm going to be honest with you. They wrote a really aggressive and shitty review.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, about Nia Vardalos, My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3,
Mm-hmm.
and the critic wrote I mean, it was personal. It wasn't a movie. Movie. It was personal. It was like really derogatory to me.
Mm.
But the one thing she did sit there and say that she called Nia a one-hit wonder, because she got the first one out, and then, and she's made some other movies since then, but she's always going to be remembered and always be compared to that first movie that she ever directed, and that was My Big Fat Greek Wedding, or she wrote. She's always going to be everything she does is always going to get prepared for the first one, because she hit the home run the first time out,
Yeah.
and that's got to be a lot of pressure.
There's a lot of pressure with that, and I'm not saying that you should basically fall, face ass. Was it other way? Anyway, don't fall on your face on the first one. I'm not saying that you should, but you look at people like M. Night Shyamalan on the Sixth Sense, and every film since has had to have that same formula. And I wondered whether or not, if that first one wasn't so huge, would he be so locked into that formula? Like, what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, since then, since that film, I've never been locked into a formula, because it's like, well, that didn't work so well.
No, yeah, that's it. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right. I mean, that has, that stigma has followed him, and to his detriment too. I mean, sometimes he comes back with some good, decent films, but overall, he's never, every movie that he does is like, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, and everybody always talks about whenever there's a new movie coming out, they immediately locked onto, like, not the story, but what's he gonna do? What's he gonna do? What's he gonna do to get what's the twist ending gonna be? And
Yeah,
he gives
and
me
I
shot
think
a
that's
single
really
frame.
hard as a filmmaker to feel like you're locked into a formula that you can't get out of. And again, I'm not justifying the sour grapes. Like, boy, would I have wanted a first hit, you know what I mean? But even still, it was very freeing, because I never felt that ever again. That everything is a new exploration as far as I'm concerned.
But at least you got one important part in, though, Karen, and I'm sure you'll. I want to know your opinion about this too. So at least you got one short film underneath your belt before you did the feature. How important? I mean, if someone walked up to you and said, "I want to be a film director," what's the first thing you're going to tell them about being a film director?
You know what? I do love short films. I just made another one this year. So, and it's just coming, like I'm just in the final, like, getting our final credits and the layback. I love doing short films, but mainly because I get to explore new ideas and new filmmaking techniques and new people, like, working with different actors and trying different people out on something that is smaller than a feature. And so, by the time, so I still love them. Like I think sometimes it's not just less pressure, but they're a lot of fun. Just being able to tell stories of all different lengths. Yeah.
I'm a huge short film fan. I love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in horror. Like that way you can get a little like creepy idea across or whatever it is that you want to play with. And you're not committed to a whole feature. Like, because a feature is actually quite a lot of work. And not saying that short films aren't, but I sometimes just want something small to explore an idea. And so I think of it as, some people think, well, once you've written your first novel, you will never go back to writing short stories or sonnets or plays. And I was like, no, actually, I love the different media.
Because it's really cool. Is like if you go look and if you go look at some directors and even some really well-known actors, if you actually look at their database, their body of work, I think people would actually be shocked to see, because they never get a chance to see them, because it's so hard it's hard for short films to get out to the public eye. But there are a lot of well-known actors even today who you would never think would do a short film, do short films.
Well, sometimes too, a lot of actors, like, say you're on a TV show or you're on a feature, sometimes you're locked into a specific role. With a short film, sometimes you get to break out of that. Like, you're taking a chance. You might be able to play a character that you're not typecast as playing. Again, you get a chance to just try something different. And then if it does work well, you've got a little, like, basically a standalone piece that you can show people and say, well, I did this. And so, like, the latest short film I did, I don't know if you know what those new virtual volume walls are, but it's how they filmed The Mandalorian, which is that full 360-degree LED screen sort of background. So it actually, sometimes they use a lot, they use it for backdrops a lot, but I filmed a whole car, like the whole film takes place in a car. And I basically filmed it so that all the exteriors, like all the driving sequences were done that way. And we filmed it eventually in that studio, and it was a lot of fun to actually do it that way.
What does the camera do? Is it rotate around the car?
No, the camera stays still. But what's interesting is that, so instead of green screen or instead of like those old rear projection, it's all LED screens. So you can literally, like, if you're in a car, that means all the reflections are right. You know what I mean? You don't have that green cast that people are there. You're not acting with a tennis ball. You actually have a real thing that you're actually in. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
You mean you started your career? When you started your directing career. Sorry.
No acting. No one wants to see me act.
So you started it in 1999 with your short film, with the lonely passion of
Big Farmer.
Yes. Okay. So you've seen 20 years or 22 years of advancement. What is, I think I already know the answer, but I want to hear what you have to say. But what's been the one singular technology advancement that do you think that has benefited directors the most?
Digital.
Yeah.
Because when we started, that was the lonely passion of Peter the Pig Farmer. I was a producer at that point. I was in my early 20s, and it was we had 35 mil, and those cameras were huge, and we're using short ends. So that means that you could never see what you were actually filming, because you would drop it off at the lab. So it was really expensive to do something like that. Like to do a short film, just to get I think even to get it into post-production, we were looking at a minimum of $25,000, $30,000 just to get there. And now you've got cell phone cameras that are better than what we had back in the day. The thing that actually, and honestly, you don't need as many people. So it's been good and bad. Like, for our industry, we're very, very cooperative. Like, to me, I love working with the departments that I work with. I love the fact that we're basically bringing a party together every single time when we're creating something. But as a filmmaker, you really don't need all those people when you have better technology. Like, in the film days, you really needed every single person, because there were things in the post side that we couldn't do. Like, I still laugh to this day where, when you look at editing equipment, people will say like, what does bin stand for? We literally had bins back in the day, right? And so when they'd say like, you dropped a frame, that was us. We dropped a frame. It was on the shag carpet somewhere. You're like looking around and you literally dropped that frame. And so you're trying to glue the thing back together. So whereas now it's like, when they use some of these terms, they're like, oh, it's in the bin. They didn't realize there were actual real bins where, film is hanging. You're like,
Right.
yeah.
Now the term advanced, but the practice did not.
Yeah, absolutely. So, seeing the timeline, like back in the day too, you were like, you couldn't color correct the way that we color correct. Like nowadays, you can almost like, you can wipe things out. You can change the entire wardrobe. Like, I don't like her shirt, it's green, I want it blue. Back then, all you could do was like, I want it warmer, I want it cooler. That was all you were able to do. And so it was really, in some ways, really limited. And because when we were editing, I mean, we were literally taping with a big Steenbeck, right? And so I remember like those big machines, like when you had an editing suite, you were in someone's basement that had a big Steenbeck, and they were literally sticking tape, to make these films, and you'd watch the thing. So any change you made was literally you having to unstick a bunch of tape to make that thing work. So you had to be really clear about what you wanted to see and how you wanted to be as a filmmaker.
So obviously, you learned these lessons. You did your short film. Where did you premiere it at? Who saw it first? Did you get a chance to see it on a big screen?
Yeah.
What was that like for you the first time that you put your work out in the public's eye?
I still have this. I'm usually in the lobby with a paper bag, sort of breathing and trying not to throw up. That is always going to be my like, after seeing it the first time with my cast and crew, it's like once it goes to a real live audience, I'm usually hyperventilating outside. I really, it's so awkward for me. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I guess,
yeah.
Do you watch it? Can you watch your work on screen?
Usually years and years and years later. I think there's a lot of times where I remember when Evangeline played at in Boston, and I remember telling the organizers of the film festival that I was going to be in the Starbucks across the street, and they should text me when it was getting close and I could come back in, because it's really awkward. It's really uncomfortable. But the first film, because it was a short film and it was called The Cabinet, and it was actually part of this program, the big thing was that it was actually premiering in front of a giant audience, like basically on a big screen, like a proper Cinemax sort of screen. And I remember sitting there watching it with them, and just like, every silence that's there, because again, it's quite like, making horror, especially for some film festivals you end up in, are not horror film festivals. So people get very tense when watching your film. So unlike a comedy where people are laughing, you've got a rom-com, you've got something, you got some sort of thing. Whereas with mine, it was dead silent. So I kept thinking, oh my God, what have I done? And I remember when the credits rolled and it was still that silent, I was like, I'm just going to go puke outside. Like that's it. I'm done.
Stained. That came out. It came out. Your first movie came out 2010, and I just want to take a quick peek at this because I want to see who you worked with as far as the actors go, because I want to know exactly how much say when you first started out, how much say did you have in casting your movie versus today? I mean, back then, how much influence does the director have when they first start out versus now?
Well, you know what? I've always been in indie. So, as far as I'm concerned, the first one was actually all cast pretty well by me. So Sonia Bennett, who was in Stained, was actually in The Cabinet as my actress on my first short film. So I loved her so much that, of course, I was going to write something in for her. And to this day, if I love you as an actor, I will try my hardest to write something specifically for you. So I love working with the same gang if I can. Tinsel Corey was, at that point, she was in some of the Twilight movies. And so she was recommended by my producers. And, to be honest, that film actually had too much money. And no one should say this, but it did. I had written basically something that should have been done for probably $250,000 and to be weird and small and strange. And by the time we were done for my first feature, I had over $1 million. And there were a lot of notes at that point because I had 10 financiers. I had like broadcasters, I had distributors, I had producers. It was like, it got to be where I thought, then everyone's giving you notes. So for every cut, everything that you're doing, you've got all these notes. And I was too young of a filmmaker and too inexperienced to actually know how to take those notes. So I think in a lot of ways, this film just started to go further and further off track from what I think I wanted. And, that was a lesson learned, you know what I mean? Like, as in, wow, okay, this is like everyone is giving you notes, not because they want you to fail. I mean, they're giving you the best notes that they can, but I didn't know how to handle them very well. And so, and ultimately, when the film doesn't do well, it's still on your head. So it's not like those 10 sets of notes, like they're like, yeah, that's all on us. They're like, yeah, you suck. So
I mean, I can't imagine how that would be, getting that kind of notes from everybody. Everybody thinks that, it's way too many cooks in the kitchen, and I just think they probably, maybe some of them maybe some of them didn't realize, because I'm sure that it's not like they were talking to each other. That's for one thing. For one thing, you knew that they weren't talking among each other, because they wouldn't have come out with 8 different angles. They would have came out with one angle. Let's have a producer.
You've got all these sets of notes that you're literally balancing, and 5 people say this they don't like, and then 4 people said this that they liked, and one person says this is just terrible. So you're trying to balance off, like, without it feeling like a giant committee, all these notes and comments so it was really and again, I just didn't know any better as far as like I would get rid of most of the notes, but then those few would literally take it into a different direction. So that was just yeah.
So I mean, that experience was definitely a learning one more than anything else.
Yeah.
So you look at the stain, as that's the beginning. So after the first feature film came out, and I got to tell you, you're the first film director I've ever talked to that has said that they have not watched their movies till years later. Most of the time, 90% of the time, it's always been actors to say that. They say, "No, I don't like watching myself on screen." I've never heard a director say that.
You know what though? I've been in the edit suite, and I've been on like basically every version of that film. I've been there. So it's not like I haven't seen it a million times, right? So by the time
there's a different way of seeing it with an audience versus not. I mean,
I'll see it the first time with the audience, and then and hopefully that hasn't scarred me enough that I
you know what? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think that you get intimidated very much by that anymore. I'm sure you watched Cheer or Die, and I'm sure you watched Willow Song, and you sat there and I have a feeling you watched both those films with pride.
Those ones I can. Actually, the last 2 I've been able to watch in that sort of way. The first time I remember seeing Evangeline, we had gotten into the Monsters of Film Festival in Stockholm. So we had not shown it to anyone yet. And the first premiere was literally with a Swedish audience. I had such bad jet lag. We'd just gotten off the plane, you know what I mean? And we were in this theater, and I had never heard it with in the full sound. I'd not seen it on a big screen. And all of a sudden I'm in a country I'd never been to. I love Sweden, by the way. It's a beautiful country, but it was just so surreal. Like, oh my God, the first time you're going to see this film is with a bunch of, basically like in another country. And we had not even had a cast and crew screening. So there was literally no feedback. And so it was kind of that one was alarming.
Let me catch up with the chat before I get fixated. If someone thinks I'm ever fixated, they should yell out like capital letters. Just type in Target, because if I see that, then I know that I'm Target fixated with my guest. I'm just gonna go over there and say hi to people. Let's see. Let me catch up here. Thank you for Jamie for patrolling the room and making it smooth. Thank you, Hobbs, for watching. Hi, Snow. I think we're talking about let's see. Yeah, well, we're going to get into that right now, Snow. I'm going to be talking to her about that aspect of her career too, because that's obviously important. Let's see. You talking? We finally have the technologies with those volumes to manifest the vision that Stanley Kubrick had from day one. Let's see. Stephen mentions. Star Wars mentions movies are evolving. Stephen Chang mentions, Karen Lam. I could. I could definitely see you doing the acting thing, though. He's right about that.
Oh, that's very, very kind until he's seen me act. That's quite terrible, actually.
Yeah, you definitely would. You definitely
I
would
can
have.
play me. I can basically just play me.
That might be enough.
I don't think so.
Let's see. Let's see. Steven wants to know. Let's see. Oh, I think. Have you ever been to a film convention? Have you been to a film convention, Comic Con, that sort of thing? You ever been to
Yeah,
one of
I have.
those?
Yeah, but I'm never a booth. You know, I'm there as another. I'm there as another attendee,
Really?
fangirling out.
Would you want to do a table, or would you be like, yeah, I'm not so sure about that?
Oh, it's and I can't imagine anyone wanting me to be at a table, but you know, I guess so. I've just never done that before. But I do like getting autographs, and I do like actually being at them, and I like collecting things. So
Okay, so you like getting autographs or giving them?
getting them, I don't want to give
Getting
them.
them. Oh,
Yeah.
how many? Do you still collect autographs now yourself?
I mean, I still like if I get to go to a like a con, I absolutely like yeah, I want photographs more than anything. It's like, oh look, it's this person, and then I get to then I say really like then I do those Chris Farley interviews. Remember the time you were in this, and then I yeah, I'm the worst as far as
Oh, that's awesome though. So you and I were doing our pre-show, and I'm telling you, like I'm a fanboy. Like I fanboyed out. Because yeah, so you still had that sense of wonderment
oh God,
about
yeah, yeah. No,
yeah.
like I don't consider myself on that side. I consider myself part of the fan group. So it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's so yeah, it's like
That's
that.
how I feel too. I'm always I don't fanboy out all that much. I mean, but when I do, you definitely know when I do. It's like, oh yeah, that guy's way out there. But it's only happened like 4 or 5 times. I mean, 3 times during my live music career, and I've had some Grail guests on here that I'm like, holy cow, like holy cow, Karen Lam.
Oh,
Uh,
like, yeah, I don't consider yeah, I don't consider that. But I love when other people like yeah, it's always fun. Although I embarrassingly did that too. I was on a TV show, and I don't know if you know Michael Nankin, but he had done the Exorcist series that I loved, and I was sitting, and he was directing an episode that I had written, and I turned around, and I was like, oh my God, it's fun. Anyway, so everything I said just made me look worse and worse. I was such a dork by the end. I was like, so remember that scene, and like where there's like lizards that's coming out of the bed, and he's like, yeah, I directed that, and I was like, yeah, okay. So then
I directed that. Yeah, but I wrote it.
well,
So,
it's just
you
yeah.
know,
Anyway, I had moments where I was like, and the voice in my head kept saying, "Shut up! Like, just stop,
oh
stop."
yeah, yeah.
Don't,
We were just
don't
talking
do
about that. We were talking about that. I was talking with that. I don't know if Matt is still here with us or not. We were talking about that yesterday about when we're doing our interviews. And one of the things that we tended, like we both commented on, was we tend to over talk. Like, and then you can hear yourself doing it, and you're going like, I said, I can hear myself keep talking, like I'm doing now. And then inside there's a voice of me saying, shut the hell up. Like, stop already. But you opened the door to another rabbit hole. We definitely got to go through this one because since it's so big right now. Let's talk a little bit about The Exorcist and then we're going to go back to you for sure. But I want to
yes.
get your opinion. I want to get your opinion about The Exorcist. Did you when you got asked to do did you get asked to write a script for the
No, no,
series?
no. I never wrote The Exorcist. I wrote. I was writing Ghost Wars. So Michael Nankin, who had directed and had basically he was the executive producer on the Exorcist series. He was
Okay.
on our show, so he was sitting right behind me. So of
Right.
course
Okay.
that's when I dorked out because I was like, oh my God.
Uh,
So I kept turning around and doing that. So in this scene and I was like, oh
right. Okay.
yeah.
I thought maybe he had written an episode for the series. I'm going, oh yeah, you guys are
No,
talking.
that'd be awesome. I was on Van Helsing, and I was on Ghost Wars as a writer. So those were my
Okay.
two. Yeah. But
Van Helsing was very that's the one on Sci-Fi Channel, right?
mhm,
With the
yeah.
with the women who was
Yeah.
see, we don't get those series released here very often, so it's hard for me to catch up with some of the shows that come and go.
Yeah.
I know Van Helsing. I think it ran for 4 years, right?
I
In
think it
Canada.
went for 7, I think, on Netflix for sure. But I was only on season 1. I'm only there for first season. Truthfully, I like creating the world. I don't love once it actually settles in and it's just characters moving from different things. I'm less interested. I really like creating, like, it's like D&D. You like to be the dungeon master. You get to create the thing, and then like once they're on their adventures, I don't really care. So
Right.
I didn't say that out loud.
I'm a world builder, but
Yeah.
that's it.
I'm just a world builder. I like coming up with creatures. I like coming up with monsters. I like coming up with the rules. But then once the characters are in that world, I'm way less interested in that.
So, you being a horror director and a horror fan, so what is your 2 cents? What do you think about this new Exorcist movie coming out, Exorcist Believer? Are you, I mean, as a, through a director's eye, if they had come up to you and asked you to do that movie, would you have done it, or would you just said, that's a little bit of, because that's an intimidating sort of thing to do, I mean, yeah, you like the challenge, but then again, you're almost asking to be asked to follow perfection. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like, if it was any other movie that had room for improvement, yeah, maybe I sink my teeth into that, give it a twist, but when you get a movie like that, some movies just should not be made.
I think I'm in that camp. I'm a purist. I really am an OG person, and so I don't necessarily love remakes. Speaking as someone who did like a franchise film, it's just really hard. The first one really is the one that sets the gold standard, and then it feels like, oh no, we're doing a carbon copy of the thing over and over again. I mean, the nice thing, like, having done like basically a franchise film, is that at least with my Bring It On, it was a horror, like it was the only crossover that was sort of like a Halloween special. So I didn't feel so much like I had to redo the first one over and over again. Like, that's a different thing altogether. Like for me with The Exorcist, oh my God, that is the gold standard. So how? I just couldn't.
I just don't see any upside to it.
No.
I really don't.
I feel a lot of hatred. I mean, like, meaning like,
yeah.
I would be like, I'd have my head on a stake for doing it. So in your head, you're like, oh, do I do this? I think of all the remakes and all the things that are coming up, and it's like, and they've never, like, even if you think you can do something with it, it never is the first thing. Like again, I'm a world builder. I don't love being in someone else's world.
Let's see. Back to the chat. Ta-da! I'm doing better, guys. I'm doing better this time. See, people are really flying here. Let's see. We're talking about Johnny Depp said that he's like watches movies. I think Johnny Depp does watch. I do. I think he does. I think he watches his movies. I think a lot of actors watch their movies. I think they just do it in the basement by themselves. I do. I say that because I really do, because to me, it's like anything else. Is how do you improve? How do you improve your craft? If you don't really see, it's like if you don't see yourself acting, you don't see like, okay, I do that, I do this tick, I do that, that works. Then how do you get an idea how to improve?
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that a lot of artists do watch themselves. Maybe not with a bunch of friends, but they do watch with themselves. See, Johnny Depp has said he hates watching his own movies because he feels detached from it and he sees him up there. But Jamie says, but I do think he watches them. And yes, I do too.
You do. But the
Yeah.
interesting thing with acting, and I guess our film medium to begin with, is that so much of the performance is crafted in the edit suite. So I could see how weird it would be for an actor, because you've prepared, your role and however you want to play it. And depending on how we decide to edit it in the edit suite, things really change and shift. You know what I mean? Like you can like, I think I was watching the Criterion basically interviews on Blood Simple, and Frances McDormand actually said that for her, she feels that feature films are an editor's medium, not even a filmmaker's medium, but an editor's medium.
That's an interesting thing too, because one of the things I've talked to some editors too, and I've come to the conclusion about one thing. I think the best editors are directors. I do. I think I have a friend of mine who does. That's what he does. He's a director, but now he edits also for Hallmark films,
Mm-hmm.
and his movies are so good. I mean, they're so good.
Yeah.
They're winning awards for his work, but he's a film director first.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think because the director will understand what you're trying to do more
Yeah.
than it will.
Well, I think it's the relationship you have. Like my one of my long time collaborators is Jeannie Slater, and she's almost edited, I'd say, like 90% of my films. And we have a shorthand. Obviously, I trust her beyond anything, and I love the fact that she went to USC to begin with. She's in Vancouver now, but she's American. And her first degree is actually in Japanese experimental dance, which I love because it means that her timing is not, you can always tell an editor based on what they listen to. Like, if you're a big punk fan, you're a big metal fan, you do certain things. But with Jeannie, what I found fascinating is that not only is her day job, she edits documentaries. So she crafts stories, wildlife documentaries. So she listens to a lot of regular people, and she tells big stories with like bears and newts and like whatever creature she's doing. And what's interesting is that she isn't just looking at my material like, here's a circle take, this is what she's looking at it like, wow, here's something that I really love doing this, and she'll actually take that documentary approach to what I've given her. So in a lot of ways, when I'm on set and I'm working, in my head, I'm always thinking like, well, what would Jeannie need at this point? Like, what would she find interesting? So I'm literally having a conversation with her because we collaborate the way that we do. So it is very much a collaboration, which I love.
Now, did Jamie do Willow and Bring It On for you? Both those?
She didn't do Bring It On because it was a studio film, and I don't think she loves that way of working. But she did do Curse of Willow Song. She did do Evangeline, and she's done almost all my shorts, including the new short that's coming out now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's catch up with the chat. Chat's flying, so I'm going to do that real quick. Let's see. Steven wants to have you come down, and you know what, Steven, you probably could too. That's how you do it. You contact the creators of Texas Frightmare, and you tell them that you want to see. That's how you guys do it too, by the way. If you guys ever want to see your favorite performers, directors, editors, whatnot at a convention, you contact the convention people who own the convention or operate the convention, and you send them an email, you send them a letter, and you let them know that this is somebody that you really like to see come to the show, be part of the convention. The more you do it, the more the chances the person will be invited. Let's see. Steven's
learned
already
something new. I had no idea.
Yeah. He's not ultimate. He's going to go ultimate fanboy over you. All right. That's what do you expect from a public relations guru? Our good friend Hobbs is here throwing up some pumpkins and corn. Thanks, Hobbs. He is the king of Halloween.
Awesome.
See, Jamie loves the Dungeons and Dragons. Loves that. Let's see. Pet Cemetery Bloodlines. I'm looking forward to. Okay. That's I can see some franchises. Like, I mean, I like Pet Cemetery, but it's like in the bigger scheme of things, it's a good movie, but it's like there's a lot of room to improve it. It's a lot of room. Yeah, I mean, a lot of room. So going and doing a movie and a Pet Cemetery franchise, have at it.
Exactly. It has to be that the first one was not brilliant.
No, the first one was not that good.
Yeah.
It had a good cast to it, but I mean, could it be improved? Yes.
Yeah. I love the book, and it was never. I just remember watching it and feeling so disappointed. So.
Did you watch it? Did you watch the remake?
I haven't watched the remake. No.
I haven't either. See, Snow mentions. I agree with that. There's nothing new, but you still can create original ideas. I'm convinced that we still have a lot of potential for storytelling, but Hollywood is not creative. I don't. You know what? Honestly, I thought the idea of taking the Bring It On franchise and putting it into a horror spin, I thought that was highly original. I mean, I would have never thought. I would have never thought about that.
No, it was if you're gonna do Dead cheerleaders, do it with your best franchise. Like your gold standard of cheerleaders. So that was I really had to dive into that one. It was a lot of work, but in the best possible way. I learned so much. I am not a cheerleader. I don't know if it's very obvious, but I am not coordinated. So I'd probably knock myself out with a pom-pom if I ever tried. And I actually did. We had 3 weeks of cheer camp. and I was there for the whole thing. It was like 2 months of prep. And 3 weeks of that was cheer camp. And I went every day. And in my mind, I was like, I'm going to pick this stuff up. I went home every night to practice. I did not pick anything up. I'm terrible. So that's the.
Oh my gosh, cheerleading now is light years from what it used to be.
I know.
You know,
I thought it was like pom-poms.
you stand on the sidelines and do your pom poms, do a couple of chants here and there, but it ain't like that anymore. I mean,
no, I was picturing like SNL, you know, where you had those two dorks that were like, yeah, you know what I mean, just doing their cheers. And I went there and it's like full acrobatics. It was like people were flying like, you know, 15 feet in the air and they were doing stuff. And I was like, okay, no. And they kept saying like, hey, we're going to hoist you up. And I remember the studio saying, you're not hoisting up the director. We have insurance on her. You're not doing anything of the sort. Like, I just remember like little missives coming like, yeah, haha, no, not you. So.
Yeah. You know, it's funny too, because the first movie that came out is really how it is now. I mean, you know, when they, you know, because, you know, before it'd be like watching that, go like, I never even heard of National Cheer. And now it's for a lot of universities, it's actually a sponsored sport.
It's huge. I actually, in my research, I watched the Netflix series Cheer. I was watching like Athlete A. I was watching all of the, like, that was the gymnastics one, but I was just looking at, you know, what are these sorts of sports? And I, like, again, I watched Cheer and I remember talking to our cheer choreographer and saying like, how close is this to reality? And he said, unfortunately, very close to what real cheer actually is. So I was just horrified by the amount of injuries that are there. Well, again, you're throwing people in the air and they're, you know, like it's so acrobatic. It's now to me like, and I didn't realize pom-poms aren't even a thing, you know, like it's really very athletic. And so I was, I had a lot to learn when it came to that.
It's funny watch some of the male cheerleaders, you know, like in the first movie, they're you know, personified as being, you know, not manly or not studly because, you know, they're on the cheerleading squad. But now you see them today and it's like, man, they all look like they could strap up and go play football better than the football team does.
Well, they have to, because you're doing full lifts and you're like, and actually what I noticed and I really wanted in the film was the fact that when I was looking at the like actual cheer world, like there's all different body sizes. It wasn't like these in your head, you're thinking size 0, you know, these little girls with pom-poms, right? And then you actually watch what real cheer is. They're athletes. Like, again, the people who have to hoist these tiny girls are up in the air. They're big humans, you know, they have to be strong. You actually have to have core. You actually have to have shoulders. You have to, you know, like, and a lot of them are doing like the tumblers, like it was just acrobatics and it was aerial flying. It was not what I expected at all.
Let's talk now you had you written yours. How did you get approached to do the movie? And had you ever seen any cheerleader like that before? Had you watched the franchise before?
I didn't even know what Bring It On was. I was so bad. I got interviewed because actually the producer, Griff First, had seen I don't know how he even found me. I think he was looking up horror lists and looking at female directors. He really wanted to have a female director on board because they had never had a female director for all of the Bring It On franchise. And actually for Universal 1440, which is it's closed down now, but it used to do all of the franchise films. So everything from Chucky and onward, right? They hadn't had any female directors either. So I was the first in all, like, I was I didn't realize I was going to be a pioneer, but Griff contacted my agent. She sent him the Curse of Willow Song, and he watched that, and they were really like, then he went back and looked at a lot of my films, like short films, the features, and he was like, wow, you have such a distinct style. And that was why they hired me. They were like, no, we want someone who isn't just a regular, you know, we want someone to bring something to the franchise that is actually interesting. So.
You know, he's right. But see, that's exactly what I caught with Willow. It was not your usual stories. Not what you expect to see. You know, it really was quite different. These guys are really putting me through my paces today. So let me catch up here. This is awesome. I'm loving this so much right now. Jamie that's right. Jamie was a cheerleader. And she shared pictures on her YouTube page of her, on her Instagram page of her being a cheerleader.
Can you forward those to me? I want to see.
Yeah,
I'm now a cheer fan. I wasn't before, and now I am like, I have such mad respect. It's like I had no idea how hard it actually is. So. Cheers.
Yeah. So, well, you guys have to follow each other on Instagram. So, or I'll send you Samy's name, and you can go and watch some of her pictures. She was a really cute cheerleader.
Awesome.
See, Snow would like to see someone turn the old Scholastic series of books, the Animorphs, into something worthwhile. I'd like to see someone turn Encyclopedia Brown into something worthwhile.
Oh, I loved Encyclopedia Brown
Me
too.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first introduction to crime books. Like with mysteries. That was my first introduction was Encyclopedia Brown.
All those
Let's see.
Scholastic books. Actually, I read all the ones about witches, and I was convinced that if I sat long enough on a carpet, I could actually make it rise. It never happened. I just spent a lot of time sitting on a carpet. So
never. Matt says, good move to do a slasher. Bring it on. More original direction for a sequel. I agree. I agree. It makes me how cheerleaders do Herkies, or pull them up. I break my legs. Yeah, there's some amazing. Yeah. Let's see. Until you want ideas that could easily turn into Hollywood films. Oh yeah, and she mentioned about the Encyclopedia Browns too. Yes, I would love to see Encyclopedia Brown. Let's see. Herkies is one of the easier ones. Toe touches were the ones to nail.
I still can't touch my toes. They're down there somewhere. So
Now, you just mentioned something I did not hear about, and if it's true, I'm totally bummed by this. But you said that Universal 1440 closed down.
Yeah. So it's like, again, things have shifted all around. And so the strike, there's so many details here as far as like what's happening, because I think a lot of streaming services, everyone is like, oh, you've got all the money. And I don't know if it's a shell game, but who does have all the money is what I don't quite get. Because when I talk to people at Netflix, occasionally they'll be like, oh my God, all those executives got fired because they weren't making money. So it feels like we're trying to each guess where all the money is gone, right? And so it feels a bit, I don't know enough other than, that entire division closed. Oh crap. You just don't know what's going on ever.
Universal 1440 actually was brilliant, and for the most part.
Yeah.
I love their films. I did. I had all the. Okay, yes, I'm gonna say this. Yes, I had all the Scorpion King films. The last one was so cool. And then I also had the Death Race movies. They were exciting. And then the only one I didn't get because it looked absolutely goofy was Backdraft 2. I passed on that hard. Oh, that's too bad because they did really cool franchise movies on lower budgets.
Yeah.
And Griff First, he's very I know who he is.
Yes.
Yeah, he's really well known. He's done a ton of movies.
Yes. Yes,
yeah.
I didn't know who he was to begin with, and I didn't know who his dad was, and so it's like it was pretty awesome. And so he's the one who really championed for me to be on it, and so he was one of the first people I talked to, and he's the one who basically said, Karen, can you just go watch Bring It On? I was like, what's Bring It On? And he was like, please, before your interview, can you please just go watch the movie? And so I was like, God.
Oh my God. I'm sure you love the movie much as we do now. The first Bring It On is absolutely a classic too.
Absolutely. It really was so like it was ahead of its time by a long shot. Like it took on all the things of like the white savior complex, like all the stuff that you didn't expect to happens. And I was like, this thing is brilliant. So I tried to bring in little nods wherever I could to like the into mine, because I wanted spirit fingers in there. I wanted, basically that goofy charm that I really loved. Exactly.
Yeah.
Those aren't spirit fingers. These are spirit fingers.
Exactly. That's right. I know the lines from Bring It On. That's right. I love that movie.
I mean, that's what I was trying to do with it, which is really interesting, is that with every, so I bought the box set just so that, I could see where they had gone with it. But it felt like with each sequel, they seemed to get further and further away from what I thought the spirit of Bring It On was. And I actually went back and I referenced the Bad News Bears. Like from my Bring It On, I really wanted the team to feel like kind of the Bad News Bears. I wanted them to feel like a team again and friends, not just a whole bunch of snipey catty things, and I don't know whether it's the writers that did that or all the male directors that they had since the first Bring It On. But it started to feel like it became all about the cat fights and less about, you know what I mean, like the spirit of cheer, which seemed to me
Yeah,
a lot more team oriented than that.
yeah. Honestly, I'll be honest with you, Karen. I've never seen any of them past the first one.
Oh,
I
I
never.
did.
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Uh,
Yeah. Thanks. So,
let's talk a little real quick. God, I'm letting my time get away from me. So I got let's go talk a Willow for a minute,
sure.
and then so I get a chance to see the Curse of Willow Song, which is your new movie that's debuting September 26th on Uncork'd. Um, I do believe Uncork'd still does physical releases, so it will be physically released. I just don't know when, but you can go to Uncork'd. My review comes out the same day.
Okay.
That's right. I'm going to hold you in suspense. Okay, no, I'm not. I know that because I already told you I loved it. So,
Thank you so
yeah,
much. But
uh,
there's still this. Like, yeah, it's you know what? It's really hard as a filmmaker reading your reviews, and not because you don't want to hear either good or critique about it, but it gets in your head. So
yes,
for
it does.
example, if you hear in a review that, like, oh, this director specializes in revenge horror, for example, the next film I do, I'm like, oh my God, I specialize in revenge horror. Then you're thinking, like, do I need to make another revenge horror? Do I not need to make another? You get in your own head and you get in your own way, not because you're worried about, again, if whether people like it or they don't like it. That's not the point. Or whether or not, you're getting constructive criticism or you're getting positive reviews. Like, that's not it. It's the fact that these stupid things, like, these ideas stick in your head, and then you're like, oh no, like, you're like, say you had I think Almodovar was like, he specializes in having staircases. So now this poor man, every time he goes out, is like, do I film that staircase? Do I not film that staircase?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, you can start, like, then you're like, well, I truly need to do a good staircase now, right? Like,
like
so
M. Night Shyamalan we were talking about before. Like, do I have to put a twist on this movie? Do I have to put a twist on this movie? I mean, everybody's expecting me to put a twist, put a twist, put a twist. But he has this, which I'm shocked that he doesn't use. He's shocked that he doesn't use. But you also have the same gift too that he does, is that you're a writer and you can write your own direction. A lot of directors, when they get known for things, they can't because they're not film writers. They're directors. That's what they do. So
yeah.
they can't write themselves onto a different type of genre or a different type of plot. You can.
Yeah.
That's a powerful tool to have in your toolbox. Um, so you can, that's all you know me as, revenge porn. Well, here, see what you think about this. And next thing you know, you're writing something that's funny, fresh, original, quirky. You know, like I said, like Willow Song. Willow Song is being okay. So for me, anyway, without giving anything away, because I'm not. So Willow Song is actually being marketed as a horror movie. Um, I watched it and I was more as a fanboy. I saw it as a origin, something like on the same level of something like a Doctor Strange, something like that. Something that a little darker than that, because this person could, because the movie was so unique. It was like it plays out as a drama. I love that. And then toward the third part, it's there we go. Then we're sliding into what we see as horror. But if you're really paying attention to it, you'll pick up on something else. It was very interesting how that went, because I'm sitting there going like, man, this is actually a damn superhero movie. Fire at the popcorn, because I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
Sounds
And
fun.
I'm going like, man, I want to know what comes next. And that's really, really, to me, when I watch a movie, if I'm sitting there and going like, I want to see what's coming, I want to see what's next. Michael Cassie did the movie called Hunter's Moon. I'm like that with his movie. Um, Fantastic gimmick, fantastic. If you get a chance to see Hunter's Moon, highly recommend it. It's rough around the edges, but just think of Stained, and then you understand when you watch it. Um, but the plot line that he had for his movie, so unique, so refreshing. It was like, that needs to come back. It needs to come back, because I've never seen anything quite like that. And like Snow had mentioned about the original ideas. There are a lot of original ideas out there, but nobody wants to work. Well, nobody wants to look for them. everybody talks about the same old horror franchise over and over and over and over and over. It's like, man, I can't, you know what? I just can't stand that. It's been talked to death. There are fresh ideas out there, but people have to talk them into being more accessible, into being more, viable, and have them be given a chance. Like I think people see Willow Song, they're going to see exactly what I saw. I think they'll be very excited to go, and they'll be sitting there going like, I want to see what's the next chapter. That's the sign of a good movie. That's the sign of a good writer. It's like, I want to see more of this. I want to see this again. There's very many movies that I can watch that sit there, and I can actually sit there and say that too, quite honestly.
Thanks.
Let's see. Snow says that she has. Oh, hey, there's Larry is here. Hi, Larry. How are you? The horror cat dad, by the way. One of our tribe.
Yes. Yes.
Karen has 2 cats, Larry. Mateo and
Sophia.
Sophia. How'd you come up with the names for them? Were they?
You know what? I actually thought they were both boys when I first adopted them. So they were actually. I was going to name them. Strangely enough, Nikki and James after Rush. I love race car drivers. But then Sophia basically was a girl. Like took them to the vet after adopting them, and the vet hangs her up by the butt and basically says, "This one's a girl. It's not a boy." I was like, "Oh well." Not that I couldn't have called them Nikki and James still, but I was like, "Oh, I guess they should have their own names." And she looked like Sophia Loren to me, so that's where it kind of went from. So it was Sophia,
I like the idea you're going to name them Nikki after Nikki Lotta.
It's such a I so love that. So
that's a great name actually for a male cat. All right, so let's see. Steven says he forgot that you had a part in She-Venge.
Yes.
I think that was wasn't that an
that's amazing. Yeah, I did I think did they put doll parts or did they put stalled on that one? I forget. She-Venge. I think it was doll parts. Yeah.
Doll parts. Okay. That's an anthology film. Okay, so do you have to go anywhere anytime soon? Let me know when it's time for you to.
Oh yeah, let me know. Like basically, I don't know. I don't want to bore everyone. So
no, you're not.
I'm
you're
writing.
Not. You're not.
I'm actually writing.
I'm looking at my time and I'm going like, I need more time. Remember the Denzel Washington movie, Man on Fire. I wish he had more time. Me too. Okay, so just let me know though, because I still got a couple of questions here.
Do your questions and then we'll
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about Willow Song. What was it like writing the story? Where did you get the original idea for this?
It was actually I'm so lucky to actually be also I work in documentary as well, and I used to do a lot of true crime. But in this case, we had worked for 2 years to try to get access to this female firefighting program for inmates in Coffee Creek in Oregon. So it was in Portland. And after 2 years of talking to the prison wardens and trying to get our access, we finally got to go in. And so I spent a week in 2017 in the fall, in the height of forest fire season with these female inmates learning as they were learning and getting trained to be firefighters. And I got a chance to talk to these women. And so Willow's character was based on one of the women that I was interviewing for the documentary, which we never got ahead, but fingers crossed, hopefully we'll get it off the ground at some point. But they were so inspiring, these women. And the young woman that I talked to was getting out of prison in 20 days. And I asked her whether she was going to be really, was she excited? Because, she's finally getting out. And she said, actually, she was scared shitless because she was there because her brother was a drug dealer and her whole family is kind of in that sort of zone. And one of the stipulations for her parole was that she would have no contact with him. And she was terrified. And so, I started it was such a, sometimes if we're not doing our real research, you're using your worldview and you're kind of imposing it on other people. But once you actually start talking to people that are not in your little, your bubble, you realize that, there's actually a lot of implications that I hadn't thought of. And so I started doing a lot more research into parole and life, kind of in what are the social programs available and stuff. And so a lot of the film started with that, there was that portion of it. So Willow's character came from my experiences on that. Then, of course, Willow's abilities, like looking at something that I hadn't seen before, which was psychokinesis. You know, the idea of not just like, you know, when you think telekinesis and Carrie, you're like moving things, right? Psychokinesis, PK, is this idea that you can create matter and energy just from your abilities. You can actually pull energy out. And I've seen that a few on paranormal shows, like, you know, again, in documentary, but I've never seen it in films before. So something I was really inspired by, that I remember watching an episode, I think, of Dead Files, and they thought there was an entity that was in this house, but actually what it was this, they discovered that this woman had basically been really depressed, and she was in this room, and by the time, you know, she had left all this dark tar-like energy that was just floating around, and it eventually formed an entity of its own. And so what they thought was a poltergeist, or what they thought was a ghost or a haunting, was actually her dark energy that she had literally manifested. I thought that was the coolest thing.
Wow. I have to read up more about that. I mean, I know about TK.
PK is really fascinating, because this
Yeah.
idea of being able to, like, you know, and I kept thinking about, where does that energy come from? You know, like if you're in a dark place and you're literally, you know, putting out your dark energy, like the fact that even if you left, that energy stays, and it was never human. It's an entity that is not ever, like, it's not of this world in a lot of ways.
So I take it you are a firm believer in the paranormal as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen too much myself. Like I'm not a, you know, I mean, like what is it? I'm witch adjacent. I'm not, as you know, from not being able to levitate on that carpet, you know,
Right.
I don't have full abilities, but I've experienced too much not to have fairly significant beliefs in it.
No, I'm a firm believer in the paranormal as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jimmy's mentioning she's playing the video game called Control, and Parakinesis is part of it. So there you go.
Cool.
I guess it's rising up. So yeah, you know, you're right. You know, because the first half of Willow, it does play out more like like I said, it plays out like a drama. It plays out like a you know, a documentary, so to speak. And you know, I sensed that was on purpose to help build up the tension.
Yeah.
You know, and it did. And the part about, you know, I have to admit, when I saw that, you know, the parole officer telling Willow, like, you can't have any contact with your brother, and I'm going like, holy cow, I've heard of some weird stuff before, but I don't think I've ever heard anybody being told, like, from, you know, you can't be with your brother. And I've heard about husbands and wives, of course, but I don't know if I've ever heard, like, you're not allowed to see your family member. I thought that was such an interesting twist.
Yeah, and that was based on like a real life situation where you, like, in some cases, the reason it was interesting too, like talking to the female inmates, 95% of them were in there because of, unfortunately, guys. You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a strange thing, and usually drugs were part of it. So your chances of actually ending up back in prison have to do with how strong your ties are. Like, basically, like, if you've got strong family ties and, you know, they can get you out of it, that's great. But for someone who's basically family is a crime family, what happens? You know, like, you're not allowed to, basically, they're the reason you're in there. And now, you know, you're supposed to basically try to make your life without them. And so I just thought, wow, what a catch-22 this woman is in.
So let's talk about, you know, because this is now, here's the part you got to cast your movie again, and you cast the Valley Tien. I think
yes.
She's beautiful, for one thing.
Yeah.
She's beautiful, and she's very she's strong, and she's I really liked her as an actress. I thought she did really, really well. And holy cow, you took Ingrid. Boy, they took her from being a really cute girl. Man, when you saw her later in the movie, you're like, what the hell? It was almost like it was for a minute there, for a second there, you were just thinking, is that the monster? Because good Lord, but I love the transition. Flea went from being Poppy to Rocky, you know, as far as, you know, like down the cliff Rocky. Did you write those? Did you, like you said, did you write these characters with these actresses in mind, or did you cast them afterwards?
Both. I had worked with Val on a web series, and so I remember how beautiful and ethereal she is. She literally has the face of those 1920s Shanghai those calendars. I just remember those posters, and I haven't seen a face like that in how, basically ever. And I had cast her in my web series that I did. And after working with her, I was like, I would love to write a feature for you, because I need that face somewhere in my, basically I'd love to work with her. And Ingrid, I had known, it's funny enough, she was teaching me yoga when, when I met her.
Oh.
And her voice was just, she has this lovely voice, and she actually is a voice actress. So Ingrid is an on-air actress, but also she used to do, and she still does, like, I think she's one of the ponies. I think she's Maud Pie, and she's done a lot of voice acting. And I started working with her quite a lot. But Flea is basically created for her, but also based on some of her own experiences. And so we pulled together, like, a lot of times what happens is I'll do a first draft of a script, send it out to some of the actors that I already had in mind. And instead of auditions, I tend to like to just sit down and have a big brainstorm with them. Like, they'll have ideas, and I'll actually take ideas that come from our conversations, or I start, like, just kind of picking out their lives and putting things back into it. So.
Yeah, I sort of knew. I had a feeling about Ingrid, about her character, about the voice, because there's a scene where she's walking with Willow, and she's smoking. But you had to show up of her smoking, but you could actually see that she really wasn't smoking. It was like, and I'm thinking, well, because voice actors, they try to protect their voice. They're like singers in that sense.
Yeah.
So I saw that, and I'm like, I saw how she was. I thought, well, either she's not a smoker or she's a voice actor.
She's a voice actor. So
yeah.
that was something really
but it helped. It helped put her over as being who she was.
Yeah.
I really like.
My newest short film is actually based a bit on this segment of Flea's life, which was actually what we took from Ingrid. And it's Ingrid, actually. So she wrote the story. She came up with the storyline, and I wrote the script, and she stars in it. So I'm really.
Is she Flea in it?
Nope, she's not Flea. She's a different character, but it's a bit of a take on that. So it is an alternate universe one. This is a little bit of it's a little more science fiction than I'm used to doing. So
okay, so here's the question I asked for, because to me, I asked this of Michael Cassie. To me, it's like, when you have a story like this, it's like, can you like, could you do a short based on Willow? I mean, where she's been after she's and I guess the question I have, well, I can't ask that here, but could you move Willow into could you advance her story? If you wanted to, yeah, would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it, but basically sometimes I like things just to be, but if it went somewhere, then basically if I have a good idea, then I will. Like for example, Doll Parts from She-Venge literally became Evangeline. Like, that is actually
right.
One of the few that I did that way. With Willow, I never was sure, like, where it was. Like, I kind of left it a little bit open-ended. So if I do have an inspiration to do it, then I'd absolutely be happy to.
Well, it's absolutely open-ended. Oh yeah, I'm speaking of, like, okay, and yeah, that definitely has to happen. Even if you wrote a short story or a story, moving the story along,
Mm-hmm.
I would still read that. Even if there wasn't a film that came out of it, if it just came out, if you just wrote a story out of it, like, and I would definitely I'd definitely be into that.
The Curse of Willow Song was actually written as a novella first. I wrote it. I always do. I don't know if you guys do NaNoWriMo, the National Novel Writing Month, every November.
I've heard of it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I do that regularly, and Willow was actually part of that. I wrote a novella, and I think it was like 50 some pages. It wasn't huge, but it ended up being the treatment for this. And so I wrote that in the first half of my November month, and then I took the second half and I adapted it. And so I wrote that in 2017. So yeah.
Has it gotten easier for you as a woman director? Have you noticed that it's been more and more easier? And hopefully, I'm not saying this the wrong way, but has it gotten easier for you the further you've gone forward in your career? Has the doors seem to be opening a little bit more and more? Because it seems like Canada has a lot more liberal in the when it comes down to giving women directors more opportunities. Or am I seeing that wrong?
No, you are. I think a lot of people are now actively searching because, again, it makes a lot of sense. And I'm thrilled with that. It's just funny because it always makes me feel like, I've been here for 20 years and I'm just being discovered now. So it's your 20-year overnight success, right? So it's a bit like, yay, I got discovered only 20 years later. Awesome. But yeah, no, it's been really nice. I have a lot of choices as far as things go, like whether or not it's in writing or in directing, and sometimes both. I'm again very lucky that I can function as a TV writer apart from my directing, and that I get hired to direct when I'm not writing. So it's sometimes I get to do both.
Snow mentioned that she says she's writing a short story about someone who has the innate ability to cause people to tell their darkest secrets. The woman just sits in a room, and within 5 minutes, people are sharing everything. Yeah, if there's a name for that, I have it, because people do that with me all the time. I'm not even kidding you. People talk to me all the time. They tell me everything. It's like, I don't know what that is. My people used to sit there and say, "How do people talk to you? Why do they?" I have no idea. They just do. And
You're the keeper of secrets. I like
I
that.
know. I have a lot of secrets. Yeah. All right. So, real quick, two more questions, then we'll let you get out of here. What's going to happen with Willow? Is it going to be on? Is it going to open wide in Canada? Is it going to get a fair shake in Canada? As far as
I think it's
I know
going on all the platforms. So, I don't know what all the platforms are. I will have more details hopefully as it goes. I'm supposed to know this, but no one tells me anything. So in Canada, I've been told that I'm on all the platforms, and Ucork'd has told me you're on all the platforms coming up. So I will see what that.
Ucork'd has really improved. Really improved. They're I don't know who's doing their film acquisitions though, but they are getting better at it. They are really, they're starting to make a lot of noise now, and they're one of the few companies that still release physical media. So
yeah, I love them for that. Keith Leopard, who runs Ucork'd, I remember when I first met him, we worked first on Evangeline, and he was amazing. He used to be, believe it or not, he was the executive at Blockbuster that worked with indie films. So that's how his background is. And so obviously when Blockbuster, went like so sad not to have like a physical DVDs anymore, but he took all that expertise of working with independent films and applied it to working with filmmakers. So I've been really lucky having him kind of.
Yeah, I was excited because I'm going like, yeah, this is not bad. This is a Ucork'd. Like I said, they've really made a lot of strides over the last few years as their quality of their films have really elevated, and I'm glad to see it, because there are a lot of great filmmakers out there that need a company like that to give them a voice.
And they're one of the most honest ones too. Like I have to say that Keith is incredible when it comes to, for us indies, like we're used to basically having some really shady distributors who might like make all these sales and not give you anything. And he is so above board. Like I see every month, or every quarter, I get regular reports. I actually get money back from him. It's like and that's actually what allows me to keep making films. Otherwise, if it's going back into the black box that I never see anything, then it's really hard to keep doing what I'm doing.
It's a real shame about that too, because a lot of these shady distributors, for one thing, they're going to be squeezed out sooner than later, probably sooner. And that's not so bad. Hopefully what's left, companies like, companies such as yourself, IFC Midnight, Shudder, Xenophobia, which is a new, sort of a new. So it used to be Art Exploitation. The gentleman sold it to Kino Lorber. Then he restarted Xenophobia releasing. Excellent films. Excellent. So it's glad to see that there are some honest distributors out there that are looking out for your best interests. So I guess the last question we have for you is, I know that Willow's coming out on the 26th, and you're going to do promotion for the film. But knowing, most directors, as we do, you already are thinking about the next project.
Yes.
So what will be the next project that you do as far as a feature film? Do you have any ideas for that?
Yeah. I'm actually, that's what I've been rewriting right now. So it's actually set in the 1970s, and it's an apocalyptic film, and so it's a road trip. And so doing the volume wall was really important, because I had, until volume wall, I had no way of doing this film, and I wrote this quite a number of years ago. So I am now revamping it, because when I wrote it, we weren't quite so apocalyptic, but now we're quite apocalyptic. I think things have gotten a little worse. So
Yeah, no kidding, right?
yeah.
All right. I want to thank you for coming out and hanging out with us. I definitely want to have you come back. Please tell me you'll come back.
So much. I really enjoyed this, and thank you for everyone to just to be there. I really appreciate it.
I do too. The chat was popping. Snow is. Let me catch up here. Snow says that's why she became a university professor on social psychology. Everyone tells me everything, so it was a good fit. Yeah.
Yes.
She wants to know if you would like to have some of her stories. She can have them. She doesn't care. She doesn't want recognition or anything. I just want my ideas not to die with me, you know.
Oh my God. That's so lovely. Yeah, anyone who, basically, if you want to connect us, I think you have my contact information, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
please.
We're flashing. All her information is down below. Her Instagram is down below. That you can go ahead and send her. Oh, you know about the new Instagram policy, right? So, like, when people write to you, you have to look for you have to look for their note for them. Otherwise, if it goes by you and you don't see it, they won't get a chance to say anything to you after that. Yes,
Crap.
it's basically it's an invitation to chat. So if someone says hi, hi Karen, I got a story for you, and your DMs just scroll up and you don't see it,
Okay.
they can't go back there and say anything else, because they're limited to one hello.
Oh, okay.
Isn't
Well,
that terrible?
that's terrible. Anyway, my Instagram is Mateo_Sophia_. It's my cats. And if you don't mind just seeing my cats, my sewing and my knitting, that's really what.
No, I'm probably gonna go chill out and and visit every single one of your cat pictures and like it.
So embarrassing. People are like, "Are you ever going to get your own Instagram?" I was like, "No, I started this thing when I had my cats and they were kittens, and at this point I can't bear to do anything else." So
No, I love it. I love it. No, I can't either. Someone says, "Why don't you do a separate? Why don't you do a separate Instagram for your show?" And I'm like, "Why?" Didn't because I like my cats being involved in it too. I'd like to do a little bit of both. So
and mine's actually, it's even worse. It's all my crafting. So it's literally like, "Hey, this is the shirt I made, and this is the
oh
these
my
are the
God!
jeans I made."
You know what? You could probably raise some money that way. You can sit there and say, I just knitted a cat sweater here. Anybody has a cat that wants, like Larry? I know Larry would be all over it. He's got cats.
It's the fashion school dropout in me that still needed a place to put stuff. Like that was it.
Larry, if you want a cat clothes, I want to thank you guys for coming out in the chat. You guys actually lit it up today. So thankful for you guys for your support. But we're not done, by the way. We're not done. We're going to be back here at 8 o'clock with artist Josh Adams. He'll be here with us tonight. He is absolutely fantastic. His art is off the chain. It's absolutely gorgeous. I don't know how he does it. We're gonna ask him about that. His art is fantastic. And I'm also working on an interview, if I can convince him to come on, which I think I can, for December, with another world-class artist, Louis DeMartini, who's also a Canadian, and his art is some of the best. Some of the best. I would actually buy some of his art. I would actually buy it if he ever. I don't think he sells. I think he just shows right now. But we're working on those two shows. Josh tonight, maybe Louis and Louis DeMartini in December. Thank you so much, Karen. Stay right where you're at. I'm going to say goodnight to the chat and say thank you again. I'll see you at 8 o'clock, everybody. Come back and meet Josh Adams. We'll talk at you soon. Peace.
Bye. And do you want me done? Yes? You want me done?
Oh, no, stay right there.
Oh, I'm supposed to stay. Okay.